to do. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, yeah. And but my parents are like, I don't understand why they wouldn't settle in Westchester. Who wants to live on Long Island? I was like, well, that I understand. But you know, her parents are out there.
Yeah.
And
Usually, that's what bothers me about having two sons. Usually, you go where she is.
yes,
You know,
you go
and
with the daughter.
yeah,
I totally
yeah.
get that.
So
Yeah.
that kind of like, where my son, one of my sons is in California, and I go there every weekend, and I see him every weekend.
Hey, everybody.
How you guys doing?
Good, good. Good to
It's
see
just
you.
three of us, right now?
It's
City
just
Hall, you and me.
that's it. Hey, Karen, Janice.
All right, now we can. Can you hear us now?
Yep.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Oh, not as on.
Not up
Nada's
yet.
on. Kayla Garcia's on. Getting there.
We're waiting for Leroy.
Who's Leroy?
Leroy Frazier.
Oh, Marlene. Okay.
I may have to kill my video.
Why is that?
It's lunchtime.
I don't want to get in the way of your lunch.
I'll still be on, but getting hungry.
No problem.
Oh, today's the open video?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, this phone makes so many different sounds for different things. I don't know what the hell is up and what's. Patrick is going to be joining us late. You saw that email?
No, I didn't look at it.
He is. He's going to be joining us a little bit late. About 12:30.
Okay.
Shoot.
Yes, please.
I unmuted you.
Okay. Okay. So, are we gonna start with him?
You want to wait? So I don't. Hello, everyone. I think we're going to wait just a minute or two more to see if we get a few more committee members on the line.
Okay, Rolene is on. Kayla's on.
Marie,
I don't see Bernie.
Frank is on, Wade is on, Nada, Rosemary. I don't see Bernie.
Reverend Challenger.
No,
And you said Frank is on?
Frank is on. Katrina is not on. Kim McNair is not on.
Judy?
Judy is not on. Don Stevens is not on.
I haven't seen him.
Patrick is going to be late.
I haven't seen
Reverend
Steve.
Trollinger. I haven't seen him. Marie, Frank, Richard, they're all on. Okay.
And we don't have Judy.
No.
What about Harriet?
Harriet is on.
Harriet's on. And Brian's not on.
Brian is not on.
And Chief is not on.
Chief is on.
The Chief is on? Okay.
Chief and Captain Spencer.
Okay.
Hold on. Yeah, they're both on. All right. Well,
All right.
it is 12:06, so I'll just keep letting people in if you want to start.
Good afternoon, everyone. How you doing? Everybody good?
Great.
All
Yes.
right, good. Everybody can hear me? Good. Good.
Yep.
We're
All
good.
right. We have a guest today from the county, Mr. Leroy Frazier. He is one of the co-chairs of the Westchester County Police Reform Team. And he's been doing this for a little longer than we have. So I invited him to come on and share with us some of what's going on with the county. And maybe he can give us some suggestions. Maybe we can give him some. He can let us know what they're pushing for, and maybe we can use some of his suggestions and maybe not, I don't know. But let's welcome Leroy Frazier. Are you on, Leroy? Okay.
He just needs to
Welcome.
Good morning, afternoon, I guess I should say.
How you doing?
Good, nice to be here.
You wanna begin?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to come along and share some of the work that we're doing at the Westchester County Police Reform and Reimagining Task Force. Just to give you a little background on it, actually, the county executive, George Latimer, had contacted myself and Mayor Bartlett, my co-chair, earlier this year in the aftermath of the George Floyd murder with the idea of forming a task force to reimagine policing. We were in the process of getting that together when the governor determined to issue the executive order requiring all municipalities, but then the state to file with him by April of 2021 a police reform letter, if you will, or document indicating what areas they would like to see reform in. We were happy to see that because that sort of made our job more relevant and put it in perspective, because keeping in mind Westchester County has the Westchester County Police Department that is principally responsible for the parkways and parks, and actually a couple of the municipalities being Mount Kisco and Cortland. And so we can talk about looking at the things that are being done already there, and then also looking at what is being done throughout the state, country, and the world, and see whether or not what best practices are and what can be suggested. We took very seriously the title, Westchester County Reform and Reimagining, because there are a lot of good things that are in place already. There are a lot of things that are being done. And it's not our goal is to point that out and highlight it, but it's also to reimagine how things could be in the perfect world. And so that's what we sought to do in developing the working groups that we put together in order to facilitate our job. And we have about 36 members on the actual task force. And so it's kind of it's difficult to get that many people in a room and sitting down and taking on issues. So we broke it down into 6 working groups. And by the way, I'm just at this point giving you background. I'll talk about what we are doing, but I would encourage you at any time to ask questions. And you could either raise your hand, or my understanding is that if you are on the Zoom and you have a question, you could either put it in the chat box, or you could click on participants. And then in the bottom right-hand corner of the participants, it says raise your hand. And that will let me know that someone wants to ask a question. As I was saying, we broke it down into 6 working groups. I'll tell you what they are, because first, transparency, then accountability, then community engagement, training and equipment, qualifications and recruitment, and the 6th one being policies and procedures. And the idea being that the working groups would meet as often as they could, and that we would then come together at specific times and have the task force meet as a whole, and the working groups will report out the areas that they have been discussing and to the entire group. And the working groups were asked, or at least suggested, that they can bring in speakers on particular issues that they were looking at. They should research what was being done, A, here in Westchester, and B, elsewhere, and talk about best practices in terms of reimagining. And so in terms of assigning we took great care in determining who would be in what working group, because we wanted a cross-section of representatives within each group. We did not want a group being filled with like-minded people at all times. And so we tried to make sure that we have 3 legislators from the Board of Legislators within a group. We didn't want them all in one group. So we had them in separate groups. We tried to have the clergy and academics represented in different groups, along with the activists, along with police personnel. For example, we made sure that we had police representatives in each of the 6 different groups, and some had more than one, either present or former law enforcement, because we wanted there to be serious discussions, and so that the group can get both sides, or the same side even, of particular issues and or arguments. And I gotta say, I found that Mayo and I have made it our business to attend all of the working groups meetings. which is a lot because each of the groups have met altogether. It's been over 100 and something meetings that we've attended. And then when we've had 4 actual task force meetings where they've reported out. And we've, at this point, we're at a stage where we have asked them to list specific issues that they'd like to see in the report. And we're going through that to see where there's overlap. And there was some overlap. For example, you know that there would be overlap between training and accountability. And that way we were able to glean it, but we were also able to get an understanding how one group, how an issue affected one group and how it affected others. That's why there are overlap. So I'll go back for a second and just talk about why we have this and what's the underlying theme. And the underlying theme we see running through all groups is that you have to look at a bridge between policing and the community. And of course, the reason that we see the problems that are inherent within criminal justice right now, to the extent that they are, is because you want to have, if we were to reimagine policing, we would want to improve the trust between policing and the community, and so that we can go forward in a way that addresses it. I mean, transparency. People want to know that information is transparent, and information has to be available, community engagement and that sort of thing. We've looked at the website for the Public Safety Department, and we've seen areas that we'd like to see things changed and improved upon. And that's some of the things that we've discussed. We've looked at, for example, we note that in order for police to be able to, there's an accreditation process that police departments have to go to, and we like to see all of the police departments in the county accredited, and I think most of them are. Only one in the county has national accreditation, and we were looking at the reason for that, and that's Scarsdale Police Department. And I think that's because that's a different level and certain amount of expenses that are incurred with that. But that doesn't mean that the departments don't satisfy the state requirements that are issued by DCJS, the Department of Criminal Justice Services, which is where certification. Every police officer throughout the county has to be certified by the state, and DCJS issues that certification. And if an officer loses that certification, that officer cannot serve as a police officer. Now we discovered that's one way of making sure that if the officer does an act for which he or she loses their job in one jurisdiction, they can't be hired for one in another. But then we have to look at, and we'll look further in our report and push back a little to DCJS to see how many times that takes place. And if that doesn't, because in looking at that, we can see whether or not there's a need in certain areas for more stringent oversight, such as a CCRB or Police Accountability Board, which they have in different jurisdictions. We know that within Westchester County, there is the police board that the Westchester County Police Department reports to, and they have a certain number of positions, and the power that they have, although they're able to get reports on a monthly basis or whenever the legislative monthly basis from the police department. And they can look at that data and see who's being stopped and look at a number of issues. Of course, we're going to study that a little further and see whether that needs to be improved, or whether or not we can make a recommendation for other types of accountability. So again, we're in the process now because our mandate was to have a written report to the county executive by December 31st. And then that will go to the Board of Legislators, and eventually we'll meet that deadline for that the governor set for a report going there by the 31st of by April of 2021. Having said that, the county exec, just in a meeting we had last week, wants to hear a number of things that are going on, because he's not, he and or the Board of Legislators and or any state and county, state legislators doesn't have to wait to put things in play that may come out of our work. For example, if in fact we've looked at the crisis response teams that have been in place in the past, and the fact that that's sort of gotten away from by the county. And what I mean by crisis response teams, that we learned that there were these CRTs, county response teams, that were there so that when there are calls for a mentally disturbed patient, and that the police can have them respond to the scene along with the police to address issues that may arise. For budgetary and other issues, they were cut back, and I think they have one now that's operating out of St. Vincent's that is 9 to 5 and not available on weekends or what have you. And so one of our recommendations we pretty much are certain to make is that those be looked at and renewed and put back in place so that these issues can be addressed on a 24-hour basis. And so I don't want to ramble. I want to give you something that is beneficial to you, but I can tell you that what we are looking for, like an example like that, we're also looking for other deliverables, other things that could be put in place without waiting. And some of those things would, again, I mentioned before, to upgrade the county website, to make sure that, and along the idea of transparency, we want to make sure that the policies are available to the public. They are, but you have to sometimes do a FOIA request for them and that sort of thing. And one of the recommendations we're looking to make is we're exploring is to make sure that they are available so that the police will have, the community will have faith and be in the work that's being done, because the police are being very transparent about it. The advent of, we know that the county police have body cams, and most police departments have body cams, and we want to make sure that that continues to be for all the departments. Right now, there was every car in the county police had it, and all the patrol officers had it, but we want to make sure that the detectives who are executing search warrants and that sort of thing have them, and have there's a need to have other technology up to speed, such as smartphones that are not there. So we're looking at a number of different areas, things in that area to, again, help them to do their job, but also to make things more transparent to the public. Now, can someone give me some direction in areas in specific that you'd like to hear about so that I can address them?
Does any of the committees have any suggestions, any questions or something they would like to ask Leroy while we have him on the phone? While we have him on the call?
Sure.
I'm not
Thank you so much, Leroy, for being with us
sure.
and for attending over 100 meetings. That was quite extraordinary. I think we've done very good work here in the city of White Plains with our municipal task force. Just one first quick question on the police board. Is that the police advisory board that's chaired by Lawrence Otis Graham that you're speaking of?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So it's not a police board of commissioners that has actual oversight responsibilities.
That's correct. When we started discussing and talking about information that should be available, we learned from Commissioner Gleason and others that they meet with the police board and they give them a breakdown on stops, issues, and information on a monthly basis. And we were saying we want to examine further that police advisory board and see whether or not there's a need to give them additional powers. And that's something that we are looking at.
Okay. And then you made it sound like the Civilian Review Board is actually just sort of like being considered, but not, I didn't get the sense from you, Leroy, that it's being considered in a serious manner.
Okay, now here's the issue again. There have been civilian review boards in different municipalities in the county. For example, I think Mount Vernon has in their charter the need for one or the ability to establish one. And what it's being considered seriously from the standpoint of recommending that the county establish one and then asking opt-in or from the different municipalities so that there won't be duplications. Because again, as I said at the beginning, because of home rule, the police, the Civilian Complaint Review Board in White Plains won't have jurisdiction over the police in some other municipality or whatever. But the ideal and what we really are looking at and what we like, what we're looking at and seeing whether it would be feasible to have one countywide Civilian Complaint Review Board. And if in fact the municipalities opt in and there be some sort of shared services, we think that that can work. Now, let's talk about that, for example. What does that mean and what kind of powers would they have? You know, we had someone, a former director from the CCRB in New York City to come in and talk about how that was set up and what type of powers, and certainly not perfect by any means in light of the article that was in the Times the other day. But what the idea and the concept behind it as being used in other areas is that they do investigations. A Civilian Complaint Review Board can do an investigation, can have subpoena power to subpoena some information and that sort of thing. And then once they make a finding of whether or not there was wrongdoing or not, and then refer it back to the police commissioner to take action. And the idea being that the spotlight on it would then either the commissioner would take action or explain the reason why not. There are a number of issues involved with giving one independent power to discipline, because that has not been that has not been a situation that has proven feasible so far in what we looked at. I think Rochester just came out with a new one that will give more power to the CCRB, but that is obviously being challenged in court right now. So that's what we're looking at. And again, it could be called that, or it could be called Police Accountability Board, but we think it's the public and the community at large would be more interested in, or would want more transparency and accountability were there an entity like that in place.
Thank you.
Leroy, hi, it's Frank Williams. Just the issue of dealing with the issue of diversity and inclusion. Can you talk a little bit about where you are with that particular concern?
Oh yeah, we've that's been a subject that we've looked at, and quite frankly, a couple of things that we found. We found that the hiring practices within the police departments throughout the county are similar to issues that that take place in other areas, other agencies, I should say. And that's due to the civil service laws and the civil service test. Sometimes that can be a problem and that can be a hindrance in hiring. I don't know, I think a number of you may know the rules under civil service hiring, that you have lists that you have to hire from, and that those lists are out there. And then once you get the list based on testing, you then have the 1 in 3 rule that you got to hire 1 out of the first 3, and so forth and so on. And between that and different police departments in the county also have different requirements. Mount Vernon, you don't need a college degree. Some other ones you have to have 2 years of college. But again, we're looking closely at that. We're looking to see whether or not you can, there needs to be a look at the civil service hiring practice rules as a whole. In my personal opinion, I think there should be a second look at it. And then we're also looking at, we learned also that they have like a Spanish speaking list. But once you leave one of the statewide or countywide lists and go to that list, you're stuck with that for 3 years or something like that. So those are, we're looking at those as problems in trying to diversify, because another way that you get outside of the list is through a transfer. For example, you've already on the job in one municipality and you decide you want to transfer over. Then, okay, then you don't have to go on the list for that. But then again, the pool of applicants that you get who are already in there may not be as diverse as you want it to be in order to get someone in there. So we're looking at all of that to see how that can be improved. And there's no easy answer to it, to be perfectly honest with you. But I can tell you that the recommendation that in order to enhance police community relations, you really do need to have the department to be reflective of the community in which they police.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Wade, did you have a question?
My question was similar to Frank's, because I know the county police has a very low number of African-American officers. So I was just curious to see what they were doing about that. I mean, I think Scarsdale has a better ratio than the county police. So I was just concerned about that. So I'm glad that you guys have identified that as an issue. And hopefully you can, you know, figure a way to, you know, to increase the numbers and make it more fitting with the community with, you know, the Westchester County community.
No, that's definitely something, Wade, that we're looking at, because how can you miss it? And Commissioner Gleason understands that as well as the county exec. I mean, again, it's kind of ironic that we are where we are now, because when you look back at the history of policing and you see how we got to where we are, a lot of times people want to point to Sir what's his name? Sir Robert Peel as the father of modern policing back in London at the turn of the century. Others will tell you that, well, police were first started in America because they needed someone to chase down the runaway slaves. And both are true. But if you look at, for example, the language that Sir Robert Peel talked about when he first started policing was crime prevention strategies to work with the community in order to avoid a military type policing. And quite frankly, we seem to have moved a lot in this country toward a military type policing, and even the police departments themselves have that type of structure. And so if we were to reimagine it, we should be getting back to police understanding that they're having a good working relationship, I think, with the community. And so hopefully we will get that. And these are good steps to take in that direction.
Mr. Frazier, wondering if you can talk a little bit more about what the county committee is looking at in terms of bias training and training for interactions with those who have mental health issues. Okay,
two things. I mentioned with the mental health, I mentioned already that we are looking to recommending that they reestablish, and I believe that's not something that we have to wait for the report to come out, but that should look to reestablish the response teams that will work with police in responding to mental health calls or disturbances. With the training, even though the police, Westchester County Police only has jurisdiction over certain municipalities, they do the training through their academy for all of, just about all of the county. And so we look specific, they have a terrific academy and training facility and dedicated individuals who run it. And we went over with that particular working group and sat through a couple of hours long lecture on exactly what goes into that training. And I know that they do, DCJS again has a minimum requirement for training in specific areas, and Westchester already does more training than required by them, which is a good thing. But we also have drilled down by meeting with them on what takes place with the training, what takes place with the implicit bias, intercultural awareness training that takes place there. And already we've spoken with them about increasing that. And they have agreed, quite frankly, that they're going to move things around, and they're taking steps to, whereas they were doing it for 1 day, 2 days, I should say, no, about 6 hours, I would say over a 2-day period. That's what they were using for the implicit bias cultural awareness training, and they're stretching it out to a week-long training. And the question is, well, how can you do that if you can't increase all the training being done? Well, you know what? We looked at some of the training that has already been done that really wasn't necessary. For example, take for example fingerprinting. That's something that was more in place some time ago, and it's again a small unit of people, the detective investigators who do that, and all the police officers don't need training in that particular area. And so they took that out, and they took some other things out, and they're increasing the training in those areas. In addition to that, our suggestion was that you bring in outside people to train. Right now, they have trainer, that they have a curriculum that DCJS gives on implicit bias and you just train them. But our suggestion and a recommendation is that you bring in groups who from the outside to do that training over the period of time, who are familiar with it, and that's what they do for a living. And so that's something that is already, I think, about that's being put in place. They're examining that, and they're going to be moving in that direction. The other thing I would mention, we looked at some of this on a community level. We were looking at this thing, a program they have in Mount Kisco called PACT, which is Police and Community Together, where they work with the community on a very close basis. It's not just a day where the police come out and hang out, but that they have an ongoing working relationship. And there's this one really great police officer up there, Officer Ramirez, that started that and has been a key force behind it. And our recommendation is to spread the wealth. We need to have other officers be Officer Ramirez's and have that same type of relationship with the community. So those are best practices that should be shared and spread out as opposed to one particular area.
A quick follow-up for you about the implicit bias training. There's significant interest, Leroy, in having among civilians in participating in some aspect of the internal bias training with the cadets or with existing police officers who have to, continue their training. So if you don't mind, please asking Commissioner Gleason if there's a possibility for a segment of the implicit bias training to be open to community members who would like to participate alongside law enforcement, because we'd like to see exactly what the training is about and how it's being done.
I am making a note for that. I will do it because it goes in line with what I was just saying. It's not enough. It should not necessarily just be within the with police teaching police, but you should have outside groups coming in to do it. But and the people in the community who are experts in that area, they should be. I know they have this program called Neighborhood Link out of Mount Kisco that will go in and talk. But we also want it opened up to individuals other than just one particular segment in one particular area. So I definitely will do that.
Thank you.
Leroy, could you tell me a little bit about your policy and procedures committee? Do you have any, can you let us know what they're working on? Which policy?
Well, they're looking at a number of things. Let me just. Obviously we're looking at use of force policies because that's the number one thing. And quite frankly, we're comparing Westchester County Police with Mount Vernon, with Yonkers, because they're pretty much consistent, but we're looking to see what the best practices are, and we're going to be making some recommendations in that area. We also want to make sure that every officer knows what the policies and procedures are and what the policies are, because policies within police departments are similar to the way they are in some other agencies. They're developed along the way. The manual is going to be maybe 800 pages in one particular location because you address issues as they come up and you have your policies stacked together. And one of the things that we've asked the Westchester County Police to do, and they've already started doing this, is to look at a way of digitalizing them and then being able to put them on the website, because that's another way of being transparent. And that's something that Commissioner Gleason is looking into right away. And again, one of the reasons we do that, we think that would be good, because if you see best practices being done in one place, it could be done and replicated in others. And the next step and what we're looking for is, it's one thing to have all of those policies right there on the website or being taught them at one time in the academy, but you can't expect somebody to remember that all the time. So the next stage from that would be to have them on a smartphone, on an app, for example. And I know that the county police are looking at the development of an app as we speak.
And what about officer health and wellness? How are you addressing that? There's a lot of concern that our officers are exposed to trauma and the trauma is not being addressed and it plays out in unhealthy ways, whether in their personal lives or in their professional lives.
We've looked at that. There have been studies done, and there's one project. I can't recall the acronym as I sit here now, but I can tell you how it works because it's helpful. It's a project that was either, I don't want to say Oregon, maybe the ABLE project, something, at any rate, where officers are allowed to look at other officers, and if they see an officer struggling, they go to their supervisor and say, and tell them that, and then they take that officer and speak to him and see what kind of help one needs. Right now, they have the employment assistant program, but the concept of a project like the one that I'm thinking of, this is also part of the duty to intervene, for example. Duty to intervene is there now, but again, it has to be, what I mean by duty to intervene, you remember in George Floyd, where the other 3 cops were standing there and didn't move in to stop him. There's a duty to do that if you see an officer doing something wrong, and that's the duty that's already on the books now. But you have to get through the culture, and with that instance, well, you have to break through the culture of it to make sure that officers understand it. And so, along with that duty to intervene on wrong duty, with this project, there's a duty to intervene if you see your officer needs help, or if you see that an officer that you observe that the supervisor might not observe, that there's some trauma there or something as a result of everyday life. And by doing so, you then are able to accomplish a lot, prevent, at worst case scenario, officer suicides, but more importantly, to get the officers the help that they need in dealing with day-to-day life, because we recognize that every day you're out there, you put your life on the line and in danger in one manner or another.
Is there any type of protections out there for police officers who report misconduct?
Well, again, one of the things that we're looking at as a whole is to make sure that there are whistleblowing protections, if you will, because while there's always something that may be on the books, we have to look at practices, and we want to come out with recommendations to make sure that officers are protected when in fact they report wrongdoing.
Can I jump in with a quick question?
Sure.
Leroy, this is Rosemary Eller. Hi. Just wanted to go back. You were talking about use of force incidents. I wonder, was there any comparison of the districts to see where use of force may be more prevalent in one district versus the other, like White Plains, Greenburgh, Elmsford, Scarsdale, that type of thing. And the other question is just to tag along with the last questions with regard to venues for police officers, to report inappropriate behavior. Is the program well established where there's a comfort level demonstrated by officers that they don't have any fear of any type of reprisal should they report something involving one of their colleagues? And thank you in advance. I appreciate you.
Sure. First of all, we have not done a study based on comparison because, again, we were focused on Westchester County Police Department. But I think that by looking at use of force, there are stats that are kept by DCJS, again, on officer using when their actions based on complaints and things like that. However, it's not so much the fact that they may be there. The idea is how do you make them transparent so that it will be easily searchable by individuals. And that's something that we are looking at. And we will be making a recommendation to DCJS to make their information more readily available. I know how to go and look stuff up there because I'm familiar with what they're keeping. I'm familiar with the different aspects of it, but not everyone does know. In terms of officer protections, I mean, there are protections that are in place now. I mean, you read about it, and I'm not speaking outside of something it's not public knowledge. There's an officer that was in Mount Vernon who had walking around, who filed complaints and who's reported incidents that he felt fellow officers were doing, and nothing is happening to him. The question is more important. I guess the question that you're getting at is how often are officers free to do that, and are they in a type of culture that they know that they would be protected?
Right.
And that's the thing that we are examining to see if, in fact, we can we have to show. I mean, one of
the environment. Yeah, what I was thinking was that, and that's a hard lift. I recognize that, yes. But an environment where people really feel free, and I don't know, and honestly, I think it may warrant a relook at how it's done, and if anything could be missed, because, the thought may be is that we do have an environment when in reality there may be opportunities missed in terms of untoward behavior, where people still are not comfortable. And that's a heavy lift. I understand that. But I think, I'm not sure if you invite like outside consultants that can address these and give hints in terms of how to make the environment conducive to what is wanted to be achieved, with regard to inappropriate behavior by, seemingly few people. So.
No, I hear you. And one of the things that we've heard from a number of the police chiefs who are the task force, it's difficult sometimes for the leaders in the police department to get rid of bad cops. Quite frankly, and we're looking at that too to make sure that see if we can make some recommendations to address that. I mean, the reality is that having a police accountability board or a police CCRB where something is highlighted will go, and some of the officers have said that will help them because it would highlight the ones who are overly using force too much, or those who are doing acts that they would want to get them off the force so that they can get them off.
Thank you.
I think Richard, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. So I understand you're looking at the county police, and you mentioned their video recording equipment. So I'm wondering about the policy that they have for the use of dash cam video, which they have for county police cars, because I have testimony for a case that I took here in Westchester County with the county police, where they testified under oath that the policy says that the police officer should not turn it off unless it's approved or without making a recording of a reason why it should be turned off, that even though the policy says that they shall not do this, they take the position that shall means we can do it whether we want, whenever we want to. So I'm wondering if this has come up and whether or not you might like to see the testimony that was given by somebody from the county police along these lines.
Well, I don't know that we want to get into a specific case, but we are looking at the policy of when they should not be turned on. And we start with the blanket supposition that if in fact you're engaging in contact with the public and the cameras there should be So we'll look at that and I'll drill down closer on it. I'm making a note here now of what you said. Because again, that is in the best interest of transparency and to help with, I assume your suit, their testimony is in a civil suit. And,
No,
oh, okay. You're talking a criminal suit.
it's there was a motion for sanctions for the destruction of video from a dash cam. And we obtained the policy of the county police, which says that it shall not be turned off except under these limited circumstances. And an officer from the county police testified under oath at a hearing that the county police take those directions to mean that they may or may not abide by them at their discretion.
Okay,
And so,
but
I think that we have an interest in seeing to it that these policies are followed and are not ignored.
I agree. It's one thing to put policies in place, they should be followed. And what I was getting at when I said civil, again, by you saying it's asking for sanctions, I assume that's monetary sanctions. And the idea is to save the county money by making sure that policies are followed. And that reminds me that one of the things that we are looking at too, and we've discussed, I don't know where it's going to go, but I mentioned it, is indemnification by police officers for intentional wrongdoing that may end up costing a municipality or the county money as a result of it. And we also were looking at, one person continuously talks about licensing. I mean, they point out the fact that every other professional has to have a license to operate, school teachers, whatever, but police do not. And so those are two areas, again, that we look at and we'll make some sort of recommendation on. But this is the idea of interpreting, hanging on one word to interpret. Lawyers do that all the time, but we have to see whether or not that's in the best interest of the county and whether or not that should be changed to.
Oh, no, we don't want it changed. We want it followed.
I hear you. I hear what you're saying, but if there's room for different interpretations, we want that room corrected.
Yeah, I mean, there's no legal interpretation of the word shall that permits discretion to avoid shall. Shall means it's a direction.
I would
So,
think so.
I mean, that's just what it is. By the way, there was no monetary sanctions. This
Oh.
was a sanction sought against the people of the state of New York and the person of the district attorney of this county for failing to maintain the police videos. And so that was the sanction being sought.
Well, when you said sanction, what remedy are you looking for?
We moved to dismiss the case, and the
Oh.
court instead found that a jury instruction that the jury was entitled to find that the evidence was destroyed because it would have been favorable to the defendant.
An adverse instruction, I get you, yeah.
Yeah, an adverse inference instruction it's called.
Right.
So could I have should I communicate this to Mayo Bartlett, whose contact information I have, or to someone, or to you, or to someone else?
You can feel free to communicate it to me. It's my name at gmail.com or Mayo. Whatever Mayo gets, I get, and vice versa.
So Leroy Frazier?
Yes.
Okay.
No I, by the way. It's an I in some of the emails. It's no I in team or Fraser.
Okay.
Leroy, I have another question. You mentioned use of force as one of the policies that you're looking at.
Yes.
Is there another one that is a hot topic that maybe we should consider?
Let me just say, possibly.
De-escalation is always a hot topic.
Yes, well, de-escalation is it's not so much a policy as it is taught, is being taught in the academy, and we're looking to make sure that it continues to be taught, and that it be taught not only that the amount of instruction in the academy is not only for recruits, but that in-service training is raised. Right now, there are certain things that you get in-service training that has to do with firearm use and things of that nature. But we want to make sure that de-escalation, the implicit bias and all of that is also part of continued in-service training, just like lawyers have CLEs, continuing legal education. A lot of times you would want to see officers who've been on the job for a number of years to continue to receive training, because things change in life and communities change. And so we're looking to make recommendations in that area as well. And by the way, I should add that while I said at the outset that we really have the Westchester County Police that we make recommendations for, we're not limiting ourselves to that. The idea is when the report does come out, we may have some recommendations that we're going to push back to the state that they should increase or look at areas as it relates to training, accountability, and their policies, and as well as just general ones that we that we've identified as best practices. I don't know if the county exec is going to let us do it, but that's what we intend. We're looking at doing at this point.
Could I just ask you one other question in
Sure.
regard to your process for the remaining time? You touched on it briefly earlier on, but if you could just go over again what your timetable is as a committee.
Okay, our timetable, we're to have a written report to submit to the county exec by December 31st of this year. In accordance with the governor's executive order, we were required to have X number of public forums. We've already had 3. We obviously have had to go virtual, as opposed to the first one we had at different locations. And the second one we had planned to have at 3 locations and a virtual one. And we had to make it entirely virtual based on the numbers rising as it relates to the pandemic. And as I said, in accordance with the executive order, it then goes to the Board of Legislators to look at and review. And then it eventually, by April, is due there with the DC Department of Criminal Justice Services. I should note that I'm told that some police departments throughout the state have already submitted their reports, and I think they had about 12 in already, because they're not, they perhaps have not been as deliberate as we're being here in Westchester.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions?
I have a question.
Sure, Harriet.
Have you looked into alternative policing using social workers, mental health workers, EMS instead of police for some calls and in tandem with police? They have more training, you know, they have degrees in mental health and crisis, and we want to train police in that because they will run into it, but we can't train them ever as much.
Yeah, I mean, that's an area that we have looked at and will continue to look at. We identified there's we know that auxiliary police are used in some instances where they are out there and they respond. There's a group in London that they use I forget the title of them, but they're akin to auxiliary police, that they go out and they have similar powers as the police, but not the power to arrest. And they work hand in hand in tandem with them and will respond to some calls that they don't. We're looking to see whether or not that's something that would work here. I'm not prepared to say at this point that that's something that's feasible, but it's something that has come up in our discussions, and we'll study it further.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Leroy,
Yes.
this is Katrina. You had mentioned that the CCRB in Rochester that they had submitted to do investigations and have subpoena power, but who did they refer to? Like who makes these decisions?
Again, that was a law, that was something passed up there that actually established it and gave it subpoena power, and even gave it, as I understand it, but you can always Google it and get a better, more accurate understanding, that they would then not only make recommendations, but make disciplinary decisions or recommendations. And my understanding is that that is being challenged in the courts, because you have to make sure that it doesn't violate any rights that are issued under their charter or under the state constitution, or for that matter, under civil service rules that are improved vis-a-vis the state.
Okay.
I have one question. I'm looking over some of these policies, and some of the language concerns me a little as far as holding officers accountable. If most of these policies say they can use their own discretion and what's reasonable to them, how do you hold an officer accountable if they're always going to be able to use that it was their thought or their feelings?
Okay, I'll tell you, one of the things that I first learned in law school was that concept of the reasonable man or the reasonable person. And that is based in theory on the fact that if one acts in a manner that a reasonable person would act, then you can not hold them liable. As it relates to policing, you have to, it's not, so it's somewhat, it's both objective and subjective. And so if in fact, because, the officers out there, and a lot of times have to make a decision within seconds or within minutes, if in fact, when the language is there, because they want to show that you have to look at and put yourself in that place, in the place of that officer, to determine whether or not their acts were reasonable under all of the circumstances. And they leave that discretion in terms of the final determination on the seasoned, experienced police commissioner, who will decide whether or not further action is warranted. That's the way it's written in a lot of jurisdictions. It's not just there in the policies that you're looking at. Now, what is being suggested and looked at is whether or not the accountability part of it should be handled by when I say it should be looked at, not handled, but looked at by a group that includes both police officers and civilians, as a lot of CCRBs do. But even when they're doing that, they then do that and they make a recommendation back to the commissioners in terms of whether or not disciplinary action should be in place. And by doing it that way, it's putting it out there, it's being transparent and putting it out there in the public to see. Now, if in fact there's intentional wrongdoing, and it's clear that it amounts to the level of criminality, then the onus is on the prosecutor, the district attorney, to step in and bring charges. And that's what you see happening in other instances. But that's why policies are written in that manner. And so that's why our focus at this point is on whether or not the accountability faction would be helped or aided by an outside agency sharing an investigation portion with the police so that they can make recommendations.
I mean, one point there, Leroy, is that I think an important aspect of the CRB is that it's independent from the police department. And for the general public, it doesn't make sense to have police investigate themselves. Because the assumption is there's no way a department could be objective and fair. These are people that they deal with on a daily basis. They know them, they work with them. It's very difficult to be impartial. So part of the reason for setting up a CRB is so that it enhances public confidence in the institution. That's what I wanted to say.
No, it does, and I don't disagree with you. I was just pointing out that, I mean, they said that is, a lot of people feel the same way about the local district attorney. And that's one of the reasons that the governor has now, no, the state legislature has now taken the power away from the district attorney to investigate and prosecute shootings by unarmed individuals by the police. Having said that, you know, I think that it has to do with the appearance and the public confidence, that, as you said. But the other side, just for purposes of stating it, is that no officer wants somebody on their force who's out there committing crimes. And so investigating and getting them off of that is something that they would do. And and if a DA doesn't do it, then the people should vote that DA out of office, because again, their job is to, notwithstanding the fact that the officers bring them cases, if in fact there's wrongdoing, then they should investigate. But we see the pendulum swinging, where the public, in order to have the confidence that they want to have an outside eye look at it. I would even point out a little further, even though the state legislature and the governor has removed that power away from the DAs and given it to the Attorney General, you know, who also works with, they have their own investigators. So maybe that's a different level of comfort that the public will have.
Any more questions? All right. Well, I'd like to thank you very much, Leroy. You've been real helpful to us. And I hope that you will be able to come back and let us know what's going on, you know, in the future. And if we have questions, we can get back to you.
Yes, you can. Feel free to. I'm happy. You know, I retired a couple of years ago, but I'm working hard again.
I can imagine.
You're working harder now than you did before.
But it's good work, because you know this is important work, and I'm very happy to be in a position to be able to do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you. Oh.
Okay. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye. Wait, did you have a question? Okay. All right. All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right.
Holiday. Thank you. I'll be talking to you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. That was great. Got some good questions, got some good ideas, right?
Yeah. Very helpful.
Okay. So I don't think we're going to have a lot of time to go over our recommendations that we came up with, or any of our reports. Do we have time for that?
I'm running a little short.
We're not gonna have time. But I do want to say, before we go any further, is that congratulations are in order for Wade and Judy on their appointment to work with the DA and her transition team. I think that's really going to be great.
Great.
Because
Thank
now
you.
we have a voice in that, and we're gonna use it. So congratulations to you both.
Thank you very much.
Echo.
Do you want to tell us like, a little bit about how that's gonna work and what your role in that's gonna be?
Well, how it's going to work, I'm not exactly sure yet. It's my first time being on a transition team. I was invited to be on the team a few weeks ago. Actually, yeah, right after it was finalized with the election and everything. But they have different, I guess, subcommittees, and I'm on the police. I'll get the exact language for you here. Give me 1 second. I am on the. Where's it at here? It's called the Law Enforcement Relations and Coordination Subcommittee. And I'm on there with a bunch of other people that are definitely, be good for the cause. And it's funny, the timing could not be more right to have the statewide police reform going on, the new DA coming in, and the folks that are on these committees, on the transition team, they're all pretty much seem to be, the right people at this time. So I think at the end of the day, things are gonna be much better off than they were with the prior administration in the DA's office. So I'm excited. I look forward to, bringing my knowledge, experience, and everything to the table, and plus what I'm hearing from this reform committee. I'm speaking to other reform committees. I actually spoke to some of the folks in the County Police Reform Committee recently. I spoke to folks with the Peekskill Police Reform Committee last night. I spoke to the Mamaroneck Reform Committee folks. I spoke to the Scarsdale Police Chief. So I've been talking to different people around the county about what's going on in their towns and villages. So I'm pretty excited about this, but thanks for recognizing it.
Good for you. Awesome.
That's wonderful. We have very high expectations.
Hope I can live up to
No
them.
pressure.
All right. So we're gonna be closing at 1:30.
Yeah.
So, can we talk a little bit about our meeting dates? Because we want to kind of know where we're going for December. I think we need to get December's dates in if we can commit to, because we're having a meeting next week, right? On the
Next Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
next Tuesday at 7. And then that brings us into December.
Right.
So, and we have Christmas week. So what do you guys think about Mondays in December to help me? And we don't have everybody on, but the ones that are on, we have to make the decision.
Mondays are good for me.
Who said that?
Harriet.
Harriet.
Mondays are good for you?
Sorry, what time of day were you thinking?
Well, what do you think? What's good for you? I'm open on Mondays. Well, not this Monday.
I mean, I could block out like Monday around this time like we did, or I can, but in the evenings, some meetings are better than others.
Okay.
But like, as far as filling up my calendar, I can just say, hey, listen, between 12 and 1:30, I'm tied up. That's not a problem at all.
So Monday afternoons is good for you?
Yeah, but I don't know everybody else's. We don't have a big group today, so I don't know if that works for everybody else.
Well, how does Monday afternoons work for the ones that are here?
Good for me.
Monday lunch should be okay, but I do have a question for our subcommittees, and that is, for example, the 5 of us on the transparency and accountability are on this Zoom. It's not clear to me. I mean, there is a sense that we are going to recommend a CRB for the city of White Plains, but it's not clear what level of detail are we providing the Common Council. Do they want to see authorizing legislation that we're suggesting for the city of White Plains? Are we just recommending a civilian review board and giving the various options and letting the Common Council do the research and investigation into what? So that part is not clear to me.
I would say, Nada, that what the council would be looking for in most cases are the general recommendations. And then, so some of the recommendations might be quite specific. I know the Policy and Procedures Subcommittee has been meeting extensively and talking about, specific changes to certain policies. But then, so that's sort of one category of recommendations. But then in terms of something like a CRB, my thought is that a broader or more general recommendation where you talk about why you're making the recommendation, why that you feel it's needed for White Plains, and then provide different options as to how it might be accomplished. I definitely wouldn't worry about legislation or feel like you have to draft anything. I wouldn't worry about that. But I think that if you give them some flexibility, that would be appreciated.
Okay, I mean, in that sense, I'm really not sure. Of course, we can have one more meeting in our subcommittee, but I'm not sure what else we have, because we're recommending that as much of policies and procedures are on the website as possible. We're recommending that data be made publicly available from the police department. And we're recommending for civilian oversight. Those are the 3 points that are coming out of our committee. And I'm not really sure, I don't want to overhash or rehash or overthink. So those, I mean, others on the committee feel free to jump in, but that's my sense of our work.
Sounds like, you guys have done what you need to do,
Yeah, and it's funny, after hearing Leroy, discuss maybe having a county-wide civilian complaint review board, that's something that, I guess if like you said, if it's sort of broad, that could be something that the city council could look into joining. I know when I spoke to Peekskill, they said they have 2 complaints every 4 months or 5 months. So it wouldn't be, would they have a civilian complaint review board, but just for Peekskill, it makes no sense with 2 complaints every 6 months. But if they had a county-wide review board that's open to all the agencies that, that want to, I guess, be involved, that might be something that the city can look at if we recommend, the city engages in a review board of, that aren't the police department, just somebody to oversee the findings of the internal investigations.
I wonder if we'll know before it's time for us to give our report if the county got what they wanted.
Well, December 31st, they have to submit this report to the county executive. I'm assuming they'll make the report public.
So would we still want one, Nada, if the county is doing it?
I didn't get the sense from Leroy that it's being seriously pursued, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Right.
Even if the county does one, and the county, when we think about it, Westchester County is huge. So if there's just one in general one, how personal is it going to be for our city? Or, even if it was broken up by White Plains handles Greenberg and Hartsdale and Elmsford, to have rather than each one of those departments having their very own, but still keeping it more personal and not overwhelming. Because if you get a bunch of complaints, how efficient can those complaints be investigated or looked into, to make sure that every point, everything is hit, that know what I'm saying?
Thorough.
Yeah. My words are, still everything.
That's a valid point.
I didn't have my coffee today, so my brain isn't.
Well, that's a valid point. I don't know how effective the county can be at personalizing these complaints. So,
well, like when I say personal, to where, if something happens within, it just seems like it keeps it more, makes people more comfortable, or keeps it more. Then if you do something on a state level, we almost think that, okay, New York State is huge. How much will they really focus on my situation? For people to be like, to know that they're not just going to get brushed off, or you know, to know that their situation, if they're coming with this, and we got to be mindful that these situations are traumatic. So the person who experiences these circumstances, you know, they really need, you have to really put time into it. You have to really consider and listen to what they're saying, so that and to make sure that it's thoroughly investigated, so that they don't feel like, oh, like they're not really going to pay attention, or it's not being handled thoroughly, you know. To me, I'm just thinking that it would be better to keep a smaller subgroups, because Westchester is huge, you know.
Well, I do agree that it would be better to be more specific to White Plains. I'm just wondering how likely that would be financially.
I think it's almost the most important thing we do.
Excuse me?
I think it's almost the most important thing we do to establish some credibility, is to have accountability.
You know, the other point for White Plains is that the CRB should be made up of community people, trusted community leaders, Black leaders that people feel very comfortable with, that they can talk to. This would be the board of the CRB, the board members. And that, again, to Katrina's point, if they're White Plains community people and they've lived in White Plains and they know the community, they know the people will feel more comfortable talking to them. If it's a county-wide CRB, we might hardly know anyone on the CRB.
Would we be recommending subpoena power?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
Well, then I think we should keep it in there.
Yeah.
Dates.
I mean, so we're meeting as a large group to hear the reports from each of the subcommittees. Is that the agenda for December?
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to need more than 2 meetings in December.
I don't know. I'd rather us put more meetings on the calendar and have them. And then if we decide we don't need them, then we don't need them, but at least, you know, have it there in case we do. Just better safe than sorry.
Okay.
So everybody in favor of Mondays afternoon? Raise your,
Yeah, everybody's
good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
Okay, so what are the dates in December?
November 30th, December 7th, December 14th, December 21st, and December 28th.
Just so you know, November 30th will not be, if it's a noontime thing, it won't work for the PD. If it's a 6 o'clock thing, it will work. But I don't think me or Captain Spence will be able to be there on the 30th if it's at noon.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna go with the next 5 Mondays.
4.
The next 4 Mondays at noon.
Well,
except for the 30th, right?
Okay.
No, the 23rd, we're not meeting next Monday. We're meeting, I thought, Tuesday evening next week.
Tuesday. That one's already
Tuesday
established.
evening, yeah.
That one's already established, Tuesday evening. At 7?
At 7 o'clock.
Tuesday. And then after that, it's gonna be
December 7th would be the first Monday in December. 7th, 14th, 21st, 28th.
So we're not gonna do the 30th?
The 30th, I think it's important that the PD be able to participate if we're talking about subcommittee recommendations.
So did he say the chief and the captain can't be there?
Chief?
Yeah, he said both.
Neither one of us.
Oh, neither one of you. Okay, so
Okay.
then 30th we won't do?
Unless you want to do another day that week.
At noon, we're not available. If you wanted to do it at a different time, I think we can make it. It's just we have an event that begins at about 11, and I doubt we'll be able to get on by 12. That's all.
Understood, okay.
Do you want to do it in the evening on the 30th?
That's December 30th?
Yes.
November 30th.
Okay.
I mean, November
There's
30th,
a
yeah.
council work session that night, so
Okay.
that might be difficult.
Okay.
Okay,
Never
that,
mind.
the evening doesn't work for that, because the council is in session. So,
Another day that week would be fine. Or we can just go to the 7th.
okay, so then we can leave it up to the subcommittees to meet that week, you know, whenever they can. And we'll go from the 24th to the 7th, right?
Okay. Monday, December 7th at noon.
Mhm.
And do you want to do the 14th as well? Noon. And then do you want to do both the 21st and 28th, or just say the 21st for now and then we'll see? Christmas is Friday, the 25th.
Are you guys okay with the 30th of December?
No, 21st or 28th.
Okay.
Right.
Are you guys good with the 21st and the 28th? They're both Mondays. Is that too much?
Yeah, so we
No.
put it down.
Yeah.
We need a break. We need a holiday break.
I would say before,
I'm listening to everything. I'm here. I'm listening to everything.
for me, the 21st would be better than the 28th, but either way, I do have to get to another meeting. So whatever the group decides.
Okay, we'll let you know.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Sorry, I have to
Thank you,
leave.
Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Okay, so what do we decide?
I mean, listen, I can certainly set up the meetings for the 4 Mondays in December. And again, we might as a group determine that we don't need that meeting on the 28th, but at least we have it all tentatively reserved on our calendars in case we do.
Perhaps
Can any of
Dennis
them-
and Karen send out reminders to the subcommittees that they should be transitioning to the stage of preparing final recommendations.
Yes, I will do that. And Katrina, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what your question was.
I was gonna say, can we have one of them, or can we alternate like some of them for the evening?
Sure.
Like,
Which one? You got one in particular?
yeah, the 7th or the 21st.
Okay.
You know what? The 7th is a council meeting, so the
Okay.
evening would not work
Okay, so
for the
Okay.
7th. But the 21st, we can do an evening meeting if that's acceptable to everyone.
Okay.
Fine.
We can do 5, we can do 6, 7, whatever works for the group.
what do you want? 5, 6, 7?
Like 7, in case somebody's traveling if they got to go to the office.
Okay, got it.
7.
All right.
All right, so,
I will send out those invitations, those Zoom invitations to everybody.
and can you do us a favor? Let us know if you're gonna be not able to attend, so we can have an idea of whether it's worth it to have the meeting. If we have more people telling us that they can't come on, then
I'll include a note in the
Yeah,
invitation as
okay,
well.
to let us know. So, and we're also gonna send out a reminder that the subcommittee should be still continuing to meet
Right.
and starting to finalize their reports.
Mm.
So you all good with that?
Yeah.
All right,
We're good.
good? All right, and it's 1:30. Everybody have a great rest of the day. Stay safe. The numbers are going up. It's insane. And see you
Next Tuesday evening,
next Tuesday evening.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. All right?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Take
Enjoy.
care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.